Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, we're going to be going over Revelation chapter 13, possibly 14. It just depends on how long it takes us to cover 13. And if you missed my live streams from today, we had a few good conversations. One about the temple and how the first and second temples are seemingly patterned after the human body, as well as modern temples. So you might want to check that out. And then in the latest live stream, we were talking. It got a little interesting. Had a little bit of fun. We were talking about aliens and Bigfoot, but it was a good conversation. So you might want to check that out. Um, Now, before we jump into the book of Revelation, chapter 13, this is the update on the Book of Mormon Sharing Challenge. We have crossed over the 5,000 mark. 5,036 copies of the Book of Mormon have been shared as a part of this challenge. We actually crossed that yesterday. I did one update today. This number will probably change today later on, but so far just one more Book of Mormon shared from yesterday. But I anticipate that'll change because look at the days before. It's like on the 22nd there was a 29 book change, and then 20, 57, 18. So I'm anticipating that this will go up, but I didn't mention this in my last video, so that's probably why today is suffering a little bit. But please, join me in this challenge. If you haven't, please send out a copy of the Book of Mormon. Just use your Gospel Library app, go to Scriptures, click on the share button. It's that easy. You don't have to have a physical copy. If you've already done it, and you've only done like a few, if you've done less than 10, share some more so you can get to 10. And please, let's make this number go up of 466 people that have participated. There are many, many, many more of you, and I'm going to keep putting the pressure on. Just remember, we don't have all the doggone time in the world to share the gospel with the world, and you are a big part of it. It's not just the missionaries, it's us. So please do it, report it, and let's make these numbers go up. And it's not all about numbers, but this certainly does help us reach out to as many people as possible. Okay, so as you know, we've been going through the book of Revelation. It's part of like a series kind of that I'm doing. You don't have to watch it in order, but go to my Book of Revelation playlist, and you can just go through here if you want to watch the other chapters that we've covered, along with many, 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 many other things that we've talked about on the channel. Okay, this is the Book of Revelation playlist. I'll put it in the description below so you can easily get to it. Okay, Revelation chapter 13. John sees fierce-looking beasts that represent degenerate earthly kingdoms controlled by Satan. The devil works miracles and deceives men. Okay. Again, it's a good thing that we have these chapter headings because this hopefully will dispel any false notions that you have about what you're reading in the book of Revelation. The book of Revelation, compared to other books in the Bible, I would say is the most, as far as like theories go and interpretations, the most fragmented. It has like the widest spectrum of interpretations, and virtually no one knows what it's talking about outside of our church. And that's not meant to be disrespectful. It's that a lot of this stuff has to do with us and the restored church and the apostasy. And so it's just you use the tools that we have at our disposal, one of which is the chapter heading. Okay, and I stood up and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and his great authority. Again, already, so many different interpretations of this that I've seen. It just gets wild. I feel like to properly understand these verses, and I may mention it in the student manual, you have to go to the book of Daniel, because the book of Revelation essentially is kind of like a sequel to the book of Daniel. In the book of Daniel, and I'm sorry for those that have already seen my videos where I've talked about this, but it has to be discussed again to properly understand this chapter. book of Daniel introduces two different ways that the kingdoms, the empires of the world are depicted. One is in chapter 2. You see right here where it says Nebuchadnezzar's dream is revealed, and in his dream he saw essentially a big statue made of different materials, and each section of the statue represented a world empire that would basically persecute the Jews and have a big impact on the Jews, and on the saints as well. It started with the head, which was the Babylonian Empire. In fact, let's pull it up. Let's see, LDS Nebuchadnezzar. I don't know. Dream. Let's go to images. Let's go to the church's depiction of it. Okay, so this is his dream. Okay, really what it is, it's a timeline. This statue is a timeline, starting with the Babylonian Empire, which is interesting because if you think about it, you could have had another section added to this statue, the Assyrian Empire up here. They were the ones that destroyed the northern kingdom, but at the time of Daniel, that had already taken place. So these were events taking place at the time of Daniel, and then moving forward all the way to the millennium. So at the time of Daniel, it was the Babylonian Empire. The next ones to rise up and deal with the Jews would be the Median/Persian empires. After that, you'd have the Greeks or the Macedonian Empire. This would have been the period just before Christ, essentially. This was the time of the Maccabees. This was the time of the Hanukkah miracle. And then, of course, after that, the Romans came on the scene. They're the legs of iron. It's been noted before in various places that it's very fitting because up here with the Persians and Medians, those are two separate empires. And you have these two arms, right? Two arms. The Babylonian Empire is one head. Two arms, Persians and Medians. And then the Greeks right here. And then the Roman Empire, it eventually split into two, the Western and the Eastern Empire, which were the Western Roman, and then the Eastern Byzantine Empire, respectively. And then in the aftermath of the fall of the Roman Empire came our modern nations and states, primarily in Western Europe, and then, of course, including other countries like the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and other countries that descend from Europe, being depicted as feet and toes of clay, some of them strong, some of them weak, but the aftermath of that empire. So that's in chapter 2. But then essentially the same thing is brought to life and instilled in Daniel's mind, but in a different sense, in a different way. Let's see. And I can't remember exactly. Is it 7? Yeah, Daniel sees 4 beasts. Okay. So in chapter 7, Daniel sees 4 beasts. 4 great beasts came up out of the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion. Okay, let me highlight these. Lion that had eagle's wings. All right. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. Okay, and behold, another beast, a second, like unto a bear. Okay, so now we have a lion and a bear and eagle's wings. And it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. Okay, so this would have been the lion. The lion would have been the Babylonians. The bear would have been the Median Persian empires. The next one is a leopard. Okay, leopard. That would correspond to this portion of it, the Macedonian Empire or the Greeks. Okay. It had 4 wings of a fowl, and then it also had 4 heads. Okay, 4. So if you're counting heads to this point, you have 1 from the lion, 2 from the bear, and now altogether 6 if you count the leopard's 4 heads. And then the fourth beast is not compared to an animal in this vision. Now, in the book of Second Esdras, where you get Ezra's eagle, in there it details that this fourth beast is an eagle, but that's not the way it's depicted here in Daniel or in Revelation. But that is an interesting detail, and we've done videos about that. How the eagle has been a symbol of superpowers, the United States, Germany during World War II. Well, and even today they still have the eagle. The Roman Empire, that between wolves and eagles, those were like the two animals that were symbolic of the Roman Empire, but the eagle specifically of the Roman military. So anyway, so here you have a seventh head, and then on this last eagle, right, it had a total of 11 horns. Let's see. Great teeth, pus, residue, feet, diverse. I considered the horns. Where does it says the horns somewhere. Okay, after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. Oh, there it is. And it had 10 horns. 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, right here. So a total of 11 horns, uh, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. So this is where people come up, and in my mind, they invent the idea of a one-person Antichrist that still has yet to come forth. Okay, I do not at all accept that interpretation, and I'm not going to explain that all here. Otherwise, this would be a completely different video. But I do have an entire playlist about this idea about the Antichrist. This is something that's not taught in our church, never has been. Um, and I have just so much to say about it. I've done 22 videos about the Antichrist. This is an idea that comes from outside of our church, based on other denominations' interpretations of scriptures, uh, because of the lack of Joseph Smith translations, because of the lack of the true doctrine. Okay, and yet there's still Latter-day Saints who accept this idea, and that's fine. Okay, we'll see what happens, but all I'm saying, it's never been taught at all. Okay, and there are some fundamental reasons why, in my mind, why this is not a true concept. There is, as taught by the Book of Mormon, a great and abominable church, which is a great superpower. It's like a great Antichrist power. And Satan himself is the great Antichrist. And there are many Antichrists. In the Book of Mormon, there were several, like Nahor and Korihor, right? And today we have plenty of Antichrists. But as far as like a one-person Antichrist, no. No. The great and abominable church, but not a one person. But you can believe what you want. Just watch my entire playlist. Before you say anything, watch the entire playlist, and then you'll understand. And then if you still believe that, then that's fine. Okay, so Antichrist. Let's get back to this. So the way that I tend to think of it, okay, these horns, these are countries. These are kingdoms that come out from that fourth beast, the Roman Empire. And the, in the student manual, it talks about how, if anything, this 11th horn, the little horn, would represent the great and abominable church. Okay, and I've had a few other thoughts on it that aren't too popular, and it could be wrong anyway. But anyway, it has to do with a certain little country. Okay, let's see, Rome. So if you're looking at the remnants of the Roman Empire, We're looking at modern day Europe. Okay, these are all now modern nation states. Italy, France, Germany, Switzerland, the UK, Spain, Portugal. So 10 horns. And I don't think it's worth the time to bother to try and match up, which are the 10 countries. It's just generally speaking, the remnants of the Roman Empire. But if you look at this tiny, tiny little place right here, there's a tiny, tiny little city right here. That's its own country. And it certainly does have um, a lot of influence. Okay. A lot of influence. It says a lot of things. A lot of people are part of this organization. I'm not saying anything bad about them. My mom's family is part of these people. Okay. This is just my own opinion. Okay. I think that if there was a specific thing, I think it would be this along with all the other uh, false philosophies and religions. Okay, all right, this is getting a little bit crazy here. Let's get back to it. So, going back to Revelation. After looking at Daniel, you have to read Daniel, I think, to understand this. Now, this is John, the book of Revelation. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads, just like, okay, if you added up all the heads from Daniel, 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. So what you have is you basically have all the heads and horns united together into one beast. What we have inherited today is the legacy of these previous powers. They are no longer here. There's not a Roman Empire anymore. There's not a Persian Empire. There's not a Macedonian Greek Empire. They're gone. But their influence, their history, their culture, the remnants, along with any secret combinations, are still here. And they're basically all gathered into one. Okay, verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. Oh, that's from Daniel. And his feet were like, whereas the feet of a bear. Oh, that's from Daniel as well. We've talked about leopards and bears. And his mouth as the mouth of a lion. Yep, there it is. And the dragon, which we've already read previously in the book of Revelation, the dragon is Satan. And Satan gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And how is that? My understanding is it's through secret combinations that have been with us ever since Cain killed Abel. The way to gain and maintain power in this world. Satan can show people how to do that. He has, and it's for a price. You have to push forward Satan's agenda if you want to have that power. Okay. And I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, Satan, which gave power unto the beast, the nations of the world. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto this beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. So this corresponds to the 11th horn in chapter 7 of the book of Daniel. Okay. And here we have another another 3.5 period. Now, you'll have to forgive me. Basically, everybody corrected me. Correct. Pregnancies do not go on for 42 months. I meant to say 42 weeks. And to my surprise, when I Googled it, I guess the average time is 40 weeks. For some reason, I was under the impression 42. It can go to 42 weeks. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Yes, 42 weeks. But in this case, we're talking about a time when this mouth that speaks blasphemies and stuff is doing his stuff for 3.5 years. And we already looked into the significance of 3.5 time and time again. In the Institute manual itself, 3.5 is a time of Satan's power. It's a time of apostasy. It's a time when he has power to do what he does. Okay, so I do not look at this and read this as, okay, 42 months. Once we see this happen, all we got to do is mark our calendar. No, it's a symbolic amount of time saying that Satan has his power over the nations of the earth, the remnants of all these empires. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Excuse me. And he doth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them with them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, the nations, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, and the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And no man might buy or sell save that he save that he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Okay, this is another one of those things that make people go just wild. Okay, you do an image search for 666. Okay, you will come across some wild imagery, just the most horrible, despicable things, as though people just revel in this idea. Both people that are not Christian and people that are Christian, they all seem to really love this horrible imagery. It's very dark, it's very horrible, and hopefully you can just tell that there's something maybe not right about this theory. Okay, especially with okay, I'm just leave it right there. Okay, so 666, right? We're gonna get into that. Don't worry. I've already done a video about 666, and we do have a specific interpretation of what that means. To my surprise, as I was studying the Book of Revelation, I was doing something completely different, and I came across in the Scripture Citation Index all these talks in the Journal of Discourses that were referencing this Revelation 13, verse 18 about 666. And I was like, what is this? And I'll show you. I'll show you what it is. Give me just 1 minute. Well, let's do this all in order. So now let's look at the Institute Manual. Revelation 13, 1 through 7. John saw a beast rise out of the sea. After seeing that Satan went to make war against the remnant of the seed of the woman, which is the church, right? John saw a beast rise out of the sea. The Joseph Smith translation indicates that the beast is, quote, in the likeness of the kingdoms of the earth, end quote. The beast's many heads, crowns, and horns suggest many different kingdoms and rulers with great power. The prophet Joseph Smith taught, quote, when God made use of the figure of a beast in vision to the prophets, he did it to represent those kingdoms which had degenerated and become corrupt, savage, and beast-like in their dispositions, even the degenerate kingdoms of the wicked world, end quote. Rather than attempting to specify an exact identity of the beast, it may be more profitable to note that following general characteristics about the beast. It had power over many nations, it opposed God and blasphemed against him. The power it wielded was like the power that predatory animals have over their prey. Satan gave it power. People of the world worshipped or followed the beast, and it was able to overpower many, including the saints. It could be said that any kingdom or government that exhibits these characteristics manifests the spirit of the beast. Revelation 17, verses 8 through 12, contains additional information about the beast, including its ultimate destruction. Okay, and we'll get to that in another video, of course. So, I'm telling you, there are people that spend just countless hours trying to match all this up with specific countries or specific events or specific people, and it gets wild. And it's all, in my mind, it's all for nothing. It doesn't do anybody any good. Just like the Institute manual says here, the thing to understand is that the world that we live in right now, and I wouldn't say just Western countries. Really, there's many other countries that have kind of partaken in this by um, adopting, Western culture, values, commerce, influence, all these different things, especially including the degenerate things. It's basically spread throughout the whole world. Okay, at this point. Um, So it's simply the power that Satan has in the world, and it is very real power. And you can tell when you look at the world, you look at nations, you look at diplomats, you look at world leaders, you look at business leaders, you look at all these different things. They're all in a lot of ways in lockstep when it comes to morality and the philosophies of men. Okay, there are some good, genuine people out there that fight it, but you can tell who's on top, who's winning, so to speak, when it comes to the messaging that comes forth from these different organizations. You look at Hollywood, which is essentially a big propaganda machine, and it's pretty clear the way that they want you to think and the values that they want you to have. And this is from Satan himself. Okay, Hollywood and other things like it, entertainment, major, major, major tool of Satan because it's a way to mix good things like good stories and entertainment and slip in these horrible, degenerate ideas and values. So we're surrounded by it. We're surrounded by it. We're persecuted by it. Okay, let's move on. Revelation 13:7, War with the Saints. John recorded that it was given to the beast from the sea to make war with the saints and to overcome them. Though the intended meaning of much of the symbolism in Revelation 13 is uncertain, one message seems clear. Satan and those who uphold his work will be at war against the saints of God. President Ezra Taft Benson taught, quote, Satan is waging war against the members of the church who have testimonies and are trying to keep the commandments. And while many of our members are remaining faithful and strong, some are wavering, some are falling. Some are fulfilling John's prophecy that in the war with Satan, some saints would be overcome. And, I feel like that's just increased. It's increased within my lifetime from what I can tell. I don't have any hard numbers, but I'm sure that most of you feel the same way. Revelation 13:8, the book of life. John saw the beast would be worshipped by those, quote, whose names are not written in the book of the life, but the book of life of the Lamb, end quote. Elder Bruce R. McConkie explained that the book of life, or Lamb's book of life, is the record kept in heaven which contains the names of the faithful and an account of their righteous covenants and deeds. President Joseph Fielding Smith taught, quote, we're not going to be saved in the kingdom of God just because our names are on the records of the church. It will require more than that. We will have to have our names written in the Lamb's book of life. And if they are written in the Lamb's book of life, then it is evidence we have kept the commandments. Every soul who will not keep those commandments shall have his name blotted out of that book. End quote. Revelation 13:10 and 14:12. The patience and the faith of the saints. The righteous will need patience and faith in Christ in order to withstand the evil that will prevail in the last days. President Dieter F. Uchtdorf, which now he's back to Elder Uchtdorf, explained, quote, patience is not passive resignation, nor is it failing to act because of our fears, Patient means active waiting and enduring. It means staying with something and doing all that we can, working, hoping, and exercising faith, bearing hardship with fortitude, even when the desires of our hearts are delayed. Patience is not simply enduring, it is enduring well. Patience is a godly attribute that can heal souls, unlock treasures of knowledge and understanding, and transform ordinary men and women into saints and angels. Patience is a fruit of the spirit. Excuse me, a fruit of the spirit. Patience means delaying immediate gratification for future blessings. It means reining in anger and holding back the unkind word. It means resisting evil, even when it appears to be making others rich. Patient means accepting that which cannot be changed and facing it with courage, grace, and faith. It means being willing to submit to all things which the Lord seeth fit to inflict upon us, even as a child doth submit to his father. Ultimately, patience means being firm and steadfast and immovable in keeping the commandments of the Lord every hour of every day, even when it is hard to do so. In the words of John the Revelator, here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God in faith in Jesus. And you guys, this community in particular, we really are doing our best to exercise patience, right? We're wanting Christ to come because so many of us are tired of enduring the nonsense of the world, uh, the degeneracy of the world. Just these things that are just horrible and perverted and backwards, and that you can tell make you spiritually dead when you're in too much contact with it, especially if you adopt it. Um, so it's a struggle. And it's probably why most of you are watching this and other channels. It's because you want to uh, see the end of this, see the end of our suffering, see the deliverance from this fallen world and level up to a terrestrial world, something much more manageable. Um, but we're just going to have to wait, and it's fine. In the meantime, we can have fun, we can learn and grow. And once we go into the millennium, we're going to have stories to tell to those future generations that never knew how horrible, how horrible this world was before the millennium. So we're kind of blessed in that regard that we'll be able to tell those stories and teach those that come after us. Revelation 13:11 through 17. A second beast spake as a dragon. Revelation 13:11 tells of a second beast that John saw. He later identified this beast as, quote unquote, the false prophet. This second beast, quote, had two horns like a lamb, but spake as a dragon. This description suggests that the second beast will seek to appear to represent Christ while actually teaching the false doctrines of Satan. The description of the second beast is also reminiscent of the Savior's warning to, quote, beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. And there are many right now that are doing just this. Okay, that will tell you and purport to be representing Christ. And well, I guess I better be careful what I say. Okay, I'm not gonna say that. President James E. Faust, now passed away, of the first presidency noted, quote, Satan is the greatest imitator, the master deceiver, the arch counterfeiter, and the greatest forger ever in the history of the world. He comes into our lives as a thief in the night. His disguise is so perfect that it is hard to recognize him or his methods. And that's what's so sad. The rest of us, when we have eyes to see and ears to hear, and we're watching commercials or TV shows or the news or whatever, and there's people that fall for this messaging that they make look really pleasant and happy and bright and happy, and people get confused, and there's different reasons for that. But the best thing that we can do is be familiar with the scriptures, uh, keep our covenants, and just do what we're supposed to do, and then we should be able to detect the difference between light and dark, right? That's the whole thing with glory, right? The whole story of Moses, how he was able to distinguish between God and Satan. It's because he could, well, literally, he had just gone through an experience where he experienced God's glory in order to be in his presence. And we do the same thing, really, when we go to the temple. It's a place of glory. It's a house that's filled with glory. And you can feel the difference when you're in the temple and when you're out. And so going to the temple, being familiar with the scriptures, and listening to General Conference, listening to the church leaders, you should, with that, be able to detect. Even though they might be presenting things in a very nice, fluffy way, you know that something is not right. Right? Okay, moving on. One of the major techniques of the devil is to cause human beings to think they are following God's ways, when in reality they are deceived by the devil to follow other paths. And geez, that is happening right now, just like to the nth degree. Okay, here we go. The mark of the beast. In contrast to the righteous who keep their covenants with God and receive his protecting seal on their foreheads, think about the temple and think about getting your initiatories done. The wicked who worship the beast, quote, receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, quote, end quote. This may symbolize that the wicked, uh, okay, sorry. This may symbolize that the wicked show by their actions, or hands, and beliefs, their heads, that they do the will of the beast and accept his ideology. However, the precise meaning of the mark has not been revealed. And that's it. Hasn't been revealed. But again, just like the rest of the book, in the way that things play out in the interpretations thereof, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what that's referring to. Okay, Revelation 13 verses 17 to 18. 600, threescore, and 6. John wrote that, quote, the number of the beast is 600, threescore, and 6. A score is 20, so 3 times 20, that's 60. So 660 and 6, 666. Over the centuries, the number of the beast, 666, has intrigued countless individuals and led to many speculative interpretations. The Lord has not revealed the meaning of this symbolic number. Some commentators have noted that since 6 is 1 less than 7, which is a number representing divine perfection and completeness, 666 may emphasize the imperfect and counterfeit character of Satan and his followers. Well, I would say that it probably has been revealed. I don't know if the manual just didn't want to say it, but let me show you what I know about it. Let's go to common misconceptions. Let's go down to one that I have for 666. Okay, so the misconception. 666 has to do with a financial or tracking system that will be imposed on every person when the Antichrist is in power. Right? People go wild, um, you know, with all the different possibilities that it's going to be a microchip, or it's going to be a barcode tattoo, or any number of things, right? They look at technological advances and stuff going on today, and they're like, "Oh, see, this is preparing for the Antichrist." Well, let's read and see what prophets and apostles have said about this number. Okay, starting with Wilford Woodruff. Okay, he says, according to the vision of John the Revelator, there are to be 600, threescore, and 6 false sects of religion. How many of these already exist is a matter of dispute among theologists, but I suppose that the number is nearly complete. Let me now ask you what. Okay, wait. Let me now ask if you think things look or indicate that these contending creeds are all of God. It is certainly not like the order carried out in the days of Christ and his apostles. It is much more like the confusion of the Pharisees, Essenes, Herodians, Sadducees, and Stoics, for they had different creeds, principles, and notions by which they were governed. And it is just so now with the sectarian world. It is composed of every sect and party that profess religion upon the face of the earth, but the honest in heart will be gathered out of all these creeds and systems and be brought home to Zion. There have been thousands of men and women who have listened to the preaching of the elders of this church, who have not embraced it for fear of their good name, and there have been many clergymen who have listened attentively to the elders of Israel, and they have spent days and nights in meditating upon the things of God and studying what to do, realizing within themselves that if they received this testimony, they would be dishonored in the eyes of the world. They fear becoming a hiss and a byword among the children of men in this generation. Hence, the majority of them reject it. That is a pretty loaded quote, isn't it? The different sects of religion. And the reason why people don't join, it's not because they don't think it's true. It's because they're worried about what their friends and family will think and others. It'd be interesting if we could see everybody's hand, using I guess, a card game metaphor. If you could see if you could see their heart, if you could see what nobody else can see, how many actually do realize that it's true? But they don't do it because they're worried about how they'll be impacted on a social level, or maybe even financial, possibly. I guess it depends on the situation. Okay, George A. Smith, first counselor in the first presidency, Journal of Discourses. Okay, he says, in a debate some years ago between Alexander Campbell, the founder of the Disciples or Reformed Baptists, and Bishop Purcell of Cincinnati on the Catholic religion, Mr. Campbell undertook to prove that the numeral letters that compose the name of the beast would answer to the name of the Catholic Church. Bishop Purcell made a very facetious reply saying that facetious? Is that facetious? Reply saying that he could find the same numerals in the name of Alexander Campbell and could find in these numerals, he thought, the beast with a hump on his back. Now, all these sects professing Christianity differ on various points. There is one peculiarity belonging to the whole of them. They all unite in declaring that God has ceased to give revelation and that he has ceased to inspire men with the spirit of prophecy. While they are all united on this point, they are divided on other points, such, for instance, as the doctrine of transubstantiation, or the belief entertained by the Catholics that the bread and wine consecrated for the sacrament become the actual body and blood of Christ. I suppose that tens of thousands of men have died on the field of battle endeavoring to settle this question by the sword. Another point of difference is in relation to the form of baptism, some contending that to dip the finger into a cup of water and sprinkle an infant will answer as well as for an adult to go down into the water and be immersed as the Savior was. Thousands of learned men have exhausted their ingenuity trying to determine whether a certain Greek word from which the word baptism is derived means to immerse, to sprinkle, or to pour. I don't think I got the whole quote in there. Gosh dang it. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, he says it later, okay? Just trust me. Okay, Brigham Young. Now, when Zion is built up and reigns, the question may arise with some, will all be Latter-day Saints? No. Will there be this variety of classes and faiths that we now behold? I do not know whether there will be as many or whether there will be more. There may be more societies than 666, for aught I know. But be that as it may, Jesus has gone to prepare mansions for every creature, who will go down as sons of perdition and receive the reward of the damned, none but those who have sinned against the Holy Ghost. All others will be gathered into kingdoms where there will be a certain amount of peace and glory. Will the Methodists have their heaven? I will venture to say that John Wesley, if he never hears the gospel preached in the world of spirits, will enjoy all the happiness and glory that he ever thought of. And so it will be with others. I mention him merely because he is a noted character. In all those kingdoms, the people will be as varied as they are here. In the millennium, men will have the privilege of being Presbyterians, Methodists, or infidels. but they will not have the privilege of treating the name of and character of deity as they have done heretofore. No, but every knee shall bow and every tongue confess to the glory of God the Father that Jesus is the Christ. This is a strange doctrine to outsiders, but what do they know about the Bible, heaven, angels, or God? Nothing. They have not the least conception about their true character, although they feel an influence that is divine that comes from heaven, which leads them to worship that which is pure, but they know nothing of him from whom all good comes. Orson Pratt. Dang, that's kind of long. Well, we'll just go down here. We inquire, what have you? Oh, we have 666 different denominations, and we have surnamed ourselves Christians. Okay. And then one more from Wilford Woodruff. This one's short. But as I said before, when the prophets and apostles and all men who held the priesthood were put to death, the ordinances of the gospel became without effect, and in consequence of this, the whole world has been filled with sects and parties, with false religions and principles, until it would almost appear that there are 666, which John the Revelator saw in his vision. And this has been the condition of the whole Christian world from the days of Jesus Christ and his apostles until the Lord raised up Joseph Smith and commanded him to organize this church and kingdom. Did he attempt to do this until he received the priesthood? He did not. He did not attempt to administer any one of the ordinances until he received the priesthood, the holy priesthood, from under the hands of the holy men who were sent unto him from God out of heaven. Okay? So, if you're trying to figure out what this means and all this stuff about implants and microchips and barcodes and AI and just all these different things, you may want to just go ahead and throw that in the garbage because it doesn't seem like that's what it means at all. And that's not in what I have here. Okay, what I've shown you here, I haven't put down all the different quotes yet. In fact, I was probably in the process of doing this, and maybe I missed that part in this quote about the 666. So I'll have to... No, it said it right here. No, it was right here. Yeah, he thought the same numerals. He could answer the... Okay. Sorry. Yeah, he was referring to 666. Never mind, that was right. Anyway, there's more than just this. It's pretty clear that in the early church, they clearly understood what 666 meant. And no one had the idea that it had anything to do with some kind of literal mark on your hand or on your forehead, right? So hopefully that clears that up for you. Hopefully it makes things a little bit less traumatizing for you, so you're not being confused by all this nonsense right here. Just all this horrible stuff to look at. Just terrible, horrible, evil, joy in evil, essentially, is what it looks like to me. All right. Well, that's going to be it for this one. Again, make sure to share the Book of Mormon and then let me know about it. By doing that, it helps others want to do the same thing, and we can make this number go up really high. All right. Let's try and get this above 1,000 at least. 466 people that are participating. Please join in. If you want to remain anonymous, that's fine. We have an anonymous tab right here. So we don't have the true number of people participating because if you want to remain anonymous, I just lump it all together under row number 23. But yeah, so share the Book of Mormon. And that's going to be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.